The base is dropped on a new edition of Soccer Down Here, April 3rd, 2019. Jason Longshore, John Nelson here with you this morning. It's a Wall Pass Wednesday, so we're taking your questions. Whatever questions you have, it's basically an AMA, so whatever you want to ask, we will try to give you answers to the best of our abilities, which so far this morning is not very good. So, we're here to help in whatever way we possibly can. If you have not seen the ATL UTD2 tweet from last night, the 90s night intro video, go watch it. It was quite entertaining. Gave me quite a few laughs. Some of the guys had to be wondering, what in the world are we doing? What is this? I would have just loved to see the reactions to, yeah, this is what we're going to do. This is what it's going to look like. What show is that? What? Huh?
Okay, Guillermo, we need you to do this with a phone.
I think Guillermo does it all the time. He's very active on Instagram. I really enjoy Guillermo Benitez on Instagram. But yeah, I think that was just Guillermo. Just do your normal thing, and we'll get you.
Yeah. Tyler Ruthven getting coffee.
Yes, I can imagine that. Tyler had a good time with it. He seemed to enjoy it.
Yeah, and Glassy coming down the stairs in his ATL UTD2 T-shirt.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff all the way around. It was quite entertaining. So the Wall Pass Wednesday question for all of you, since it's 90s night and we're kind of turning it into 90s week, favorite 90s TV shows?
Oh, see?
Yeah. So favorite 90s TV shows, that's our topic on a Wall Pass Wednesday. Let's hit some of the news from yesterday that popped up. One thing that we talked about in the Atlanta-Columbus match that we didn't really know how it was going to get resolved and what the outcome was going to be was Harrison Offal's injury. It happened right before the weather break, and we were speculating. It looked like they didn't really have anybody ready to come in. We were wondering if the break would give them time to assess and figure out what was wrong. I don't think they truly figured it out until after the match that Harrison Offal has a broken jaw. So Offal is going to miss, I think it's 6 to 8 weeks. He's going to have his jaw wired shut for, I believe, 4 to 5 weeks. Really brutal injury for Columbus.
Yeah. It was, and considering what Harrison Offal is to that back line, having him out for the next 6 to 8, I know that Caleb Porter and the staff are going to be on the hop to try to figure out how to reorient things, but that is a big loss for them.
It is. I mean, it's a huge loss with his quality, and you already lost Milton Valenzuela, at the beginning of preseason, so you went out and you got Waylon Francis. You do have Hector Jimenez, who is a utility player. He can play on the right. He came in for Offal in this match. He can play on the left. He can play in the middle. The problem is when you lose Jimenez from your bench, then it gets kind of thin. Connor Maloney's played a handful of games in his career. Josh Williams can play on the outside in a pinch, although at this stage of his career, he's not well suited for it. You do have options in the middle with Mensah and Abubakar to give Williams some flexibility to be a utility guy. I don't know if there's anyone in their orbit that's not under a contract right now that they could bring in. They don't have a USL team to sign somebody from. It's tricky. You've lost your 2 outside backs, and we know the way that this team played before, and the way that they want to play under Caleb Porter isn't all that different. Your outside backs getting forward is a big part of it. Valenzuela and Offal were perfectly suited to it. Waylon Francis has stepped in, and he's been completely fine in replacing Valenzuela. Not quite as dynamic, but effective. Jimenez isn't really that type of player on the right side. He's going to be more of a stay-at-home right back, and that's going to change the way the Crew play.
And, with the hot start that they've had, to your point, I want to see now how they're going to address the depth issue. And there's only so many things that you can do right now to bring in other bodies.
Well, you got a month. Transfer window's open. So you got a month to go get somebody. There's guys out there. One guy they probably would have loved to have signed with Sporting Kansas City yesterday, Nicholas Hostler. He would have given you that right back who can get forward. Don't know Columbus's international slot issue off the top of my head, but Hostler came into the league with Toronto, went to Chicago. They released him when they added Gaitan because of the international slot issue, and he was surplus to their needs. He would have been a perfect fit to go to Columbus. He goes to Kansas City instead. So I'm not sure who's out there. I mean, there are USL players who are in USL independent teams who are right backs who could sign with Columbus and fit their needs. They need to assess really quickly, and they've had Connor Maloney, training since preseason. He was there last year. Caleb Porter has to make a decision really quick on if Connor Maloney can give you adequate cover for Jimenez. If he can, okay, you can maybe roll with that for a while. If not, then you're going to need to go get somebody who can play some minutes for you because you might need Jimenez in other roles.
Right now, Columbus has 2 slots available with Valenzuela being on the season-ending injury list. And right now it's Opoku, Rubinho, Santos, and Sosa are your 4. Valenzuela taken off the books.
Yeah, so you're fine. And Opoku, I think, is loaned out. You could get creative with his loaning if you need to. You're fine. You don't have to worry about it. You can go sign somebody.
So then let me ask you this before we go forward.
Go ahead.
Were you surprised Nicholas Hostler was even available in the first place, disposed of by Chicago?
No. I mean, Chicago didn't really need him. I'm a little surprised that just the way everything was handled with Chicago in terms of you brought him in last year, and I thought he was pretty effective. And then you go into this year and you make the decision that, no, pretty quick, he's not what we need, and we need to open up an international slot. So you've done a couple things that have changed things in Chicago where you've added some guys who had played other positions into your outside back category. You're playing guys like Corrales, you're playing guys like Campos at right back. So that's kind of changed it a little bit. And if you're going to change what you're going to do with the addition of Gaitan, if you're going to go long-term to play in some kind of a 3-5-2, 5-3-2, with Schweinsteiger dropping into the midfield, you're asking for something different dropping in the back line, sorry. You're asking for something different out of your outside back because it's going to be a wing back instead of a right back. And maybe they felt like Hostler wasn't suited to it. He played wing back in Toronto, but Chicago thought he was an extra piece, and they didn't need him. So Kansas City benefits from it. Now, I don't think it's anything like horrible that Chicago did. They just, are you going to get anything if you try to hold on to him and trade him? Probably not. You want Nicholas Gaitan on that team more than you want Nicholas Hostler.
Yes.
So,
yes, agreed.
I mean, that's where you're at.
But yeah, I figured with the changing of a kid, I figured I would ask the question.
Well, the Chicago thing is interesting. I'm glad you mentioned Chicago just in general. There are some pretty wild rumors out there making the rounds about Chicago getting out of Bridgeview, the current SeatGeek Stadium, the former Toyota Park, basically buying themselves out of the lease with the city of Bridgeview, which it's a bad lease for everybody. I mean, the city's not benefiting from it right now. Nobody's winning from it. It's just bad all the way around. But there's a rumor, and it is as rumor gets, about Chicago buying themselves out of this lease, rebranding the club to Chicago City Football Club, and moving back to Soldier Field. I don't know about the rebrand part of it. That's the part that I'm scratching my head. Like, is that really something you need to do? And I'm not in Chicago living and breathing it every day. I know the Fire are irrelevant. I know they have been relevant. Is it going to be enough to move them back into the city to make them relevant again? Or do you need to freshen things up? And is freshening things up in that way actually the way you need to do it? Tons of questions. The one about getting out of that lease, that actually doesn't really surprise me because we've heard Don Garber recently mention Chicago as a stadium situation that needs to get addressed. He's brought it up, and the league would probably have to get involved in helping deal with this because you're going to be talking about a good bit of cash. Now, the Fire have also brought on some additional ownership. Remember Andrew Hauptman, the owner, brought on I can't remember the name off the top of my head. Monsueto, I think. Big-time money guy in Chicago. Brought him on as essentially an equal partner, but Hauptman kept the majority by whatever, a percentage or whatever it was to be the majority owner.
Yes, Joe Mansueto, chairman of the Chicago-based Morningstar Investment Company, got 49%.
Yeah, so he's brought in some cash. Mansueto, I believe, is far more resourced than Hauptman. And that's one of the things that the rumor kind of is alluding to, is that he is making this happen because it couldn't happen otherwise. Look, it's a rumor. There's nothing to it concrete yet. I'm wondering if some of the heavy hitters in American soccer media are going to jump on this to see what they can find. Trying to see what else is in here that needs to get done or that needs to be discussed. Would be at the end of the season, according to the rumors. And it's basically a parting of the ways that would retire 2/3 of the bond debt that's left on the stadium. It's an interesting situation. Let's just start with the stadium part of it. How much do you think getting back into the city, playing at Soldier Field, but how much do you think getting back into a central location would help the soccer club in Chicago, whatever their name is?
I think anything would help them, and I think that you get closer to the population center. I think that that's a no-brainer at this point, because if you're irrelevant and you're trying to make yourself more relevant, it gets into the whole thing that we talked about with Red Bulls and media coverage. If you're playing at Soldier Field, then it's an easier situation for the television stations, radio stations, name your entity, to come and cover you than it is to have to go all the way to Bridgeview, have to try to figure out how to pull something off of ESPN Plus, how to figure out how to turn that video and do something when it comes to the Fire. And, right now the Fire being irrelevant, we said be very good or be very bad. Don't just be average, because average, you get ignored anyway. If you're bad, people talk about you. You're good, people talk about you. Chicago, to me, yes, you brought in Gaetan. You brought in Katai last year, and you had all of the shenanigans with his contract situation. That made you talked about. But that was because you were floundering in trying to keep a player. You need to be back in the population center so you can be accessible as best you can. So I'm all for any change of pace right now, as long as it's not further away from Chicago than Bridgeview is.
I'm going to propose a change to the be very good or be very bad to get talked about, because I don't think that works in soccer in the United States. Okay. I think in other sports it does. I don't think soccer has the clout with the media to get talked about when they're very bad. I think you have to be very good or very interesting. And right now, Chicago Fire they're not the latter.
No.
And they're edging to being good, but they're not quite there yet either. Even in some markets, being good and interesting is not enough. See New York Red Bulls. So yes. I think if you're very bad in American soccer, you can just get ignored, period. The Fire have to do something. They can be better in Bridgeview. The Cuauhtemoc Blanco days show that soccer fans will go to Bridgeview if the team is good. Now, will they go in big numbers or bigger numbers than what they got in the Blanco days? And then when they're so-so, will they get anything close to those numbers? We haven't seen much evidence of that. I do agree with the studies and just the evidence that we've seen that being downtown, being centralized, it will be better in the long run. I'm not one who's afraid of being in a big venue. We've talked about this plenty. I think if you want to be a big deal, you got to act like a big deal, and you need to play in a big place. And I think Soldier Field would give you that. Now, how creative can you get to make it work? The Fire played there before and did pretty well with it. How creative can you get to make it really work now for a Wednesday night match against, Houston? You're not going to fill it. You're not going to come close to filling it. You're not going to fill whatever your soccer capacity is. It's not a great night to fill it. How's it going to look? I do think it's funny that we get really bent out of shape about these things. And have you watched some Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday night Major League Baseball games between bad matchups? It's empty.
No, because it's a bad matchup and it's a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday night.
And nobody else is watching it either, even on TV.
Nope.
It's empty.
Yeah.
Stadium's empty. Nobody's watching. That happens. We kind of forget that. Same with the NBA. I mean, not as much with the NFL, which is a whole different behemoth when it comes to professional sports. But
Thursday nights.
Yeah, bad Thursday night.
Thursday night attendance figures. I won't go into the ratings argument,
right,
but I'll say
sure.
Thursday night attendance figures to me are different because the NFL will always go by tickets sold,
of course,
to register
Everybody
an
will.
attendance number as opposed to butts and seats.
Everybody does, and I mean the money's the money. I'm not worried about that. And we saw here in Atlanta there was some differences between butts in the seats and tickets sold, or butts who came through the turnstiles anyway, and tickets sold. Wasn't as big of a difference as some people try to make things out to be, but you get into these midweek games and it's going to be an issue. However, I do think the benefit is more to be at Soldier Field. I really do. I think the Fire become more relevant, whatever their name is. Now let's get to the branding side of it before we take our first break. Do you think the Chicago Fire need a rebrand? I don't.
No.
I don't. I think you can flip it with the history that you have with the Fire. I think a better product and a rebirth. I mean, maybe you rebrand in terms of new logo, new imaging, that type of stuff. But I don't know if you need to change the name. That doesn't seem necessary to me.
And the notion of a Chicago City football club, I know that there are other cities that do that kind of thing. Manchester, first one popped into my head, but I see no reason to go to that step. I understand the rationale of we're leaving an old venue, we're going to a venue we were in before. It's a rebrand, it's a rebirth, therefore we need to rename. No, you don't. No, just be better about yourself in the community and with your product and how you present yourself. I don't think that you need you don't need to be CCFC to get the point across, because what's the hashtag on Twitter? CF97. Everyone is attached to the Chicago Fire as, a 1997 part of MLS. They've always been a part of that fabric. To reorient yourself to CCFC just because you're going back to a venue you were in before, it doesn't make any sense, and I think it's an unnecessary step in trying to draw attention to yourself.
Yeah, it seems really like re-adding. I mean, just adding more to the drama of everything. I don't think it's necessary. I mean,
No.
You have a vocal fan base that you've built some bridges back to now, finally. I don't think this does anything to change, like anything for the better. I think the move to Soldier Field is good. I don't know if you need to change the name too.
No.
The only one of the original MLS teams that I feel like should be considering a name change is New England. And I'm not even fully convinced that they need the name change. They need a rebrand for sure.
Yeah.
They badly need a rebrand in terms of logos and all of that. And the Fire could probably use a refresh, but I think Fire is great. I don't think you need to change it. I mean, everybody gets it. Everybody understands it. It works well. You have a lot of different things you can do with it. I would roll with it. And if you're going to change it, is Chicago City FC really where you want to go? I mean, it doesn't. That's the thing to me is it doesn't to me, the city names, the United names, the just city name and FC, they're fine. I don't get bent out of shape about it. If that's what you come in with, if that's what you start with, you can do a lot around it, and images and branding can pop up around it to make it work. But when you have a iconic brand, and I think Chicago Fire can be an iconic brand, and then you change it to something that is more generic, why?
Yeah.
Why?
I think if you were to do something like a CCFC, I think
people are still going to call them the Fire.
Yeah, I mean, it's 2 steps backward to go 1 step forward. I mean, you're going into a venue where you were in before. You're coming back into the city, so we're going to rebrand ourselves and change the name. And okay, no, you don't need to do that. I don't think you do.
Yeah, it's weird. It's very strange. One thing about the guy who did tweet this out, and again, this is from Reddit research, so take it with a grain of salt. The guy appears to be a former outside counsel for the Chicago Fire. Now, he's had some issues with the club over the past few years, but he has had relationships with the club, so it's not a completely random person dropping some crazy rumors out there. So we'll see. We'll see. The Don Garber stuff is what makes me think, okay, maybe there could be something to it. And I want to say that Garber might have even mentioned Soldier Field along those lines. So keep an eye on Chicago, and we'll see what else pops up out of this. But I'm aboard with not changing the name. I just don't think it's necessary, especially to change it to something like City. I think it's a reach. Go ahead. I was just going to say, it puts you back into a group with everybody else that's a City FC. It doesn't put you independent of everybody else. It doesn't give you an identity that's separate and apart from everybody else who decided to make themselves a City football club. The only thing, if there is some kind of legal issue with the lease and getting out of Chicago or getting out of Bridgeview, and you have to change it because the Chicago Fire, I don't know if they're the Chicago Fire Soccer Club officially. I think so. If the Chicago Fire Soccer Club cannot play in another venue in whatever range of Bridgeview, blah 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 blah, and you have to change it, okay, explain that. And I wouldn't add City. I would just be Chicago SC or Chicago FC, and people call them the Fire, and just go from there. If there is a legal need to change it, fine. But keep it even more generic. Don't put City on there. That would be the way I would go with it. Let's take a break here. The Wall Pass Wednesday question of the day for the audience is favorite 90s TV shows. We've already got a couple chiming in. We'll talk about them after the break. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service, Ad Council, and your state forester.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency, or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Every hiring manager knows that a company is only as good as the people it's made from. So where do you find the best people? That may surprise you.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
This is talent worth knowing about.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here, April 3rd edition. 90s night for Atlanta United 2 on Saturday, and they dropped the video with the team, the Family Matters intro. Pretty cool stuff. Tyler Ruthven's ridiculous grin getting coffee is probably my favorite moment. And the way the video team at Atlanta United is stupid awesome. And the work they did at the end with just the part with, the family coming together with the shot, that was really nicely done. So I don't know who gets credit for that one. I'm just going to give blanket credit to the whole team because it's pretty sweet. So the question was favorite 90s TV show. Before we get there, Kevin from Charlotte has a big issue with our friend Jarrett_Smith. And I'm sure he's going to hear this. If he's not hearing it now, he's going to hear it later. Kevin from Charlotte takes offense to Jarrett's dislike for 80s music. Kevin says, I'm not sure who I would have become if I wasn't introduced to New Order. Life changer. Yeah, Jarrett. What do you think about that? That's all I have to say. New Order's great. I actually got into New Order later in the 90s era and then went back on their 80s stuff.
But you need to hear something other than Bizarre Love Triangle every 15 minutes.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. I got into the 90s stuff with Republic that came out. Regret is one of my all-time favorite songs, period. If I had a mixtape of, like 20 songs of my all-time favorites, that would be on there for sure. So I discovered them then and then went back. But, I mean, that was me. Like, I really got into that kind of music in the early 90s and then went back on bands like The Cure and New Order and R.E.M. into their 80s stuff. But 90s TV shows, Eichmann starts us off with Seinfeld.
Eichmann.
I am not a Seinfeld fan. Go ahead and at me. It's fine. Never got into it.
Well, I'm probably going to drop Seinfeldian references into Run of Play.
I figured.
Have a couple in mind for certain situations, but we'll just see what's going down.
Yeah, I never got into it, so everybody can at me. Eichmann, you can at me. It's cool.
Yeah,
I
and
admit
you
that
can
I'm not
at
cool
me
when it comes
too.
to this
I
one.
wasn't hardcore.
Well, you're gonna drop references, though. I'm like, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, no, but I will maintain that Julia Louis-Dreyfus did get more and more attractive as Elaine as the later the show went.
Well, there you go. I can second that. Yeah, I can back that. Andy Hollums and Tafka vote for Boy Meets World. That was a little bit later for me. Like, I appreciate it as a good show. I wasn't into it at the time.
No.
So I can't really say I was like a fan. I didn't dislike it.
No.
That the TGIF ABC block, I think that's what that was a part of.
Yeah, Perfect Strangers and all that.
No, Perfect Strangers was like the mid 80s, wasn't it?
Oh, I don't know.
I think what was the guy's Balky? I think that was in the 80s.
Balcamitas. Yeah,
I don't think that was in the late 90s. That's awesome. Yeah, I think it was that and like what, Full House, and I think Family Matters was probably in there too. I think that was the TGIF block. It was huge. It wasn't my thing. I was a little bit too old for that at that point.
Okay. Hey. All right. So a TGIF interstitial exists with Perfect Strangers, at least from 1989. So we'll see what it.
Wow, that's not the real TGIF, and that's 80s. Anyway, my favorite 90s show, period would have been Beverly Hills 90210. Like, no question.
Yes.
I think the biggest reason is like it was right at the time for me. Like I want to say it actually lined up like their graduation year was when I graduated high school. So it was like right in sync with where I was, except I didn't live in Beverly Hills and all that stuff. No. But anyway, I would have liked to have done that. That would have been nice.
Steve was never the same after Claire left. I will maintain that.
You're getting into the later stuff, yeah. They did bounce back with him at the end. I wanted Brandon Walsh's Mustang. That was my dream car at the time, for sure. The yellow Mustang. Trying to think what else. I mean, I loved that show. I remember one of the first like college bonding experiences with people in my dorm was the final show for Dylan before he left the show. when the marriage with what was her name? Rebecca Gayheart, Tony Marchette. And then she was killed, and nobody knew it was going to happen. It was the big cliffhanger, but you knew that Dylan was leaving the show, and it's like, what's going on? And everybody in the dorm got together to watch that. I remember that one very specifically. So.
Dylan hands Brandon the keys, and he drives off into the sunset.
Tears, man, tears.
Okay, so here's your TGIF lineup for most of the 90s.
Okay.
Full House was actually the lead in the 90-91 season.
Yeah, I knew it was the biggest one, I think.
It was ranked 15th overall in the ratings with a 16.0. Then you had Family Matters, Perfect Strangers, which actually lasted
into the 90s.
till 92,
okay.
and Going Places in the fall and winter. And then in the spring, you had Dinosaurs, Family Matters, Baby Talk, and Perfect Strangers.
Baby Talk. Oh, okay.
Step by Step started in 91, 92.
Which one was Step by Step? I don't remember that one.
Hang on, efforting.
That's fine. We'll get into it later.
No, that was the one with Patrick Duffy, Suzanne Summers,
yes,
and the house with all the kids.
There you go.
So six seasons of Step by Step with the mixed family, with the new marriage and all the new kids.
Right.
So it's like
the
a
Brady
Bunch for the Brady Bunch for the 90s. Dinosaurs, Hanging with Mr. Cooper.
Oh yes, Hanging with Mr. Cooper. That was good stuff.
Boy Meets World shows up in the 93-94 season in the 8:30 time slot. And so that's when that started. And then you get through Family Matters, which goes through 96, 97. And it seems like they had the show that was part of the setup for who was going to succeed, because in 90-91, Full House was in the 8 o'clock slot. Family Matters was in the 8:30. Full House goes away. Family Matters takes over in the 8 o'clock slot. Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Oh, yeah.
Was in the 8:30. And so you had that, and Clueless actually was as a television series.
Oh, that was horrible. That lasted like a year. It was bad because there was like nobody but the
Stacey Dash
roles. I don't know. I don't think she was in it. I think it was all the smaller roles like reprised their characters, and then they recast everybody else. It was horrible. The TV show was horrendous. Yeah,
Stacey Dash was the one that came over, although it was created by Amy Peckerle.
Came over.
Okay. Rachel Blanchard, Stacey Dash, Elisa Donovan, Donald Faison, and Sean Holland.
Yeah, so no Alicia Silverstone, so nobody cared.
No,
is basically where you're at.
No Paul Rudd, none of that.
Yeah.
And then you had, in the late 90s, you had Two of a Kind and Sabrina in the 8 o'clock slot. Two Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place, a very underrated comedy.
I've heard that was actually a pretty good show. I could not tell you anything about it.
With some guy named Ryan Reynolds who was in it.
Big Ryan Reynolds fan.
And then
99,
2000 was Boy Meets World and the Hughleys.
Okay.
In the 8 o'clock slot. And that's when it transitioned from Hughleys, Boy Meets World, something called Odd Man Out. Sabrina the Teenage Witch was in at 9 o'clock. And you had something called Making the Band in spring of 99-2000 to go with the Hughleys.
Making the Band, that might have been an MTV crossover if I remember right. God, we're getting everybody going nuts on Twitter right now. This is hilarious. So, John Roper has shared a GIF from the Dinosaurs show, which, oh no, just no. All kinds of stuff. So Roper's in with me on Beverly Hills 90210. He also cites The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, which I 100% agree with. I went on a Fresh Prince of Bel-Air kick a couple years ago, getting into all the reruns again, and that show's so good. That was a great one. Roper loved the X-Files. That wasn't one that I got into.
I mean, the first couple of seasons for me were okay, and then it kind of drifted from me. So, Jarrett is spouting straight fire at the moment.
I'm a little more careful to say things not like Jarrett saying Seinfeld is the most overrated show in the last 30 years. Wow. Wow. I wouldn't go there. I did not care for it and did not watch it, but wow, Jarrett, your 80s music takes and your Seinfeld takes are going to get you hot lava sent your way.
Hot lava. Had some really solid episodes, but never did it for me overall. And then Jarrett just comes in with a straight flamethrower and says, I take offense to a lot of the 80s in general, so let's call it a draw.
Good grief. All right, Jimmy Vance, ATL Soccer 929, comes in with Seinfeld, Married with Children. Great show.
Yes.
Great show. That one holds up, too. Those are fun episodes to watch today. Saved by the Bell. I've seen every one of them. We've had the conversation about the Tory conundrum. The college years one wasn't as bad as you think it was. It was okay.
Yeah, it was.
It wasn't that bad. I mean, it wasn't great, but it wasn't that bad. Beavis and Butthead.
When you have Golic as an RA.
Golic was a good RA. Anyway, Beavis and Butthead.
Mm-hmm.
Good quality. Loved it. Saw the movie the night it came out, the midnight showing. Great times. Simpsons.
What are you boys doing over there?
I liked The Simpsons. I wasn't like a hardcore fan. I liked it.
No.
I'd watch it when I was around to watch it, but I wasn't like, okay, go out of my way to watch it. South Park, yes. I remember when that debuted. I remember like that was around like the time that the internet was becoming a thing, and you could find the original short, and I was all into that and all into the show. And then the movie was another one that saw it the night it came out, and everybody singing along the Kyle's Mom song, and it was just greatness. Jimmy also comes in with Pete and Pete, which I do not remember. I do not remember Pete and Pete at all. And
I
Doug,
do vaguely.
Which I do remember, which was great.
And people are actually still requesting the theme song when Doug Robertson comes on the show.
We might have to bring that back. It is 90s night this weekend, so yeah, I think we'll have to bring that one back.
Nickelodeon show centers around two brothers, both named Pete Wrigley, and their humorous and surreal adventures in suburbia among their equally eccentric friends, enemies, and neighbors.
There you go. All right. Garlic Bread Warlord Nick Alifi, Mystery Science Theater 3000. Another great one.
Ding.
Yeah, I can support that.
Yeah, I'm definitely down with that one. So, all right, and now we've got Jimmy saying that Friends is the most overrated show.
I was really into Friends for a while.
First 4 seasons.
Yeah, it's probably around that for me. I've seen, I think, all of them. You know, it's one of those that, you know, it gets replayed all the time. So when there's nothing on, like, okay, fine, it's on. And I think I've seen all the episodes. It got pretty stupid in the middle, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But the first...
Joey dating Rachel.
Yeah, it just got weird. The first few seasons were
tremendous.
Really good. Really, really good. And that was one of those, like, cultural phenomenon kind of shows. So, I mean, it was everywhere. Go ahead.
Mad About You.
Yeah, I never got into that one. I know a lot of people loved it. I never got into that one.
Gave me the chance to see Helen Hunt on a weekly basis.
Oh, really?
Strong.
Yeah, that
and
was...
then a roast season of Paul Reiser.
I was trying to remember who it was. Yeah, Paul
Reiser.
Reiser.
First 4 seasons, tremendous. And then after Helen Hunt's character kisses Doug Burkus, and then they go through all the marital strife, then you're kind of sitting there going, okay, that's kind of a downer.
So you mentioned Family Matters, or not Family Matters, Perfect Strangers earlier, and
yes,
the show like that, the 80s show that survived into the 90s, for me, I don't think you beat Cheers.
No.
Cheers is one of the best shows, period, to ever be on television. And it was one of the few that lost a major cast member and was still good.
Yeah.
It still worked. So that would be my crossover 80s, 90s show. But
what did you say to an ice cold beer, Normie? Going down.
So many good things about that show. Let's leave the 90s TV show discussion here. Let's continue talking about TV, though, and we're going to take a quick break. Developments in Canada to keep an eye on when it comes to TV and streaming TV in the United States. We'll get into that on the other side of the break. Keep sending your favorite 90s shows in. Keep yelling at Jarrett. That's always good. Call him out for bad takes. Call me out for bad takes about Seinfeld.
Shorts.
Call anybody out for bad takes on TV shows. It's completely good. Have fun with it. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA is a national nonprofit working to transform youth and high school sports so that every child has a positive character-building youth sports experience. PCA provides live and online workshops to train double-goal coaches whose first goal is winning and whose second, more important goal is teaching life lessons through sports. PCA also has workshops for parents and high school student-athletes. For more information, please visit positivecoach.org.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinsky of Apolinsky & Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. This cat makes me make art. He's always motivating me to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. He's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Keyboard Cat, YouTube star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Start yours today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back. Sauger Down here, April 3rd. I see that everyone is still tearing Twitter to pieces about your 90s TV shows. Have fun. Good times. We're going to talk about TV in a different way. The Athletic has an article from Sean Fitzgerald. What DAZN, and I had to learn how to pronounce it, DAZN. What DAZN means for your English Premier League viewing today and maybe your hockey tomorrow. Now, this is for the Canadian audience, but this is something to keep an eye on. This was announced Wednesday morning. When was this? Was this today they announced this? Or did they announce it yesterday? DAZN has formally announced it had acquired exclusive broadcast rights to the English Premier League in Canada. The deal kicks in August. Subscribers to DAZN will have access to all 380 games, as well as highlights, the weekly feature programs that the Premier League puts out, archival footage. Access, $20 a month or $150 a year. When you do that, you can watch the other programming that they have. And in Canada, they have Major League Soccer, they have the NFL, they have baseball, they have European soccer. So $20 a month, $150 a year, Premier League, not on regular TV in Canada now. That's a bold move.
Yes.
A very bold move. Now, here's a couple numbers to throw around. Remember, this is Canadian audience, so you're talking about a different scale, but Sportsnet had the... Did Sportsnet have the Premier League or did TSN have it?
Was joined.
Oh, they split it. Okay. So
yeah.
Sportsnet would usually expect to attract between 100,000 and 150,000 viewers for a Saturday morning broadcast. Here, Premier League games, your average Premier League game, not a mega match, your average one on a Saturday morning, 300,000?
Yeah, a couple 100,000.
Yeah, I'm pulling a number out for a random game. Big games will draw more, obviously, but averaging, it's a little bit more. DAZN is hoping, and this is where you wonder why Flow FC is throwing the money around that they are. You wonder about the streaming services. This gives you a glimpse at it. It's been suggested that DAZN would hope to convert about a third of that 100 to 150,000 into subscribers. That's their goal here. So if you get that, I think then they find a way for it to all make sense. I'm really intrigued as to how this goes. So supposedly lots of market research. I don't think DAZN just cut a gigantic check for no reason. They're confident that they can get the subscribers to make it work. Now, they do have other content as well, and they are bringing in other money in other ways, so they're not solely responsible just because of the Premier League broadcast. But this is really interesting, and we haven't seen a move of this scale in the United States yet. We will. We'll definitely see something like this. An industry insider suggested DAZN will pay between $10 to $15 million a year for the EPL rights over the next 3 years.
Okay.
Don't know what Sportsnet, TSN paid for EPL rights previously. DAZN already has a relationship with the Premier League. They carry it in Germany and Japan. But this is going to happen in the United States for some big sports product. I don't know who's going to do it first. Could Major League Soccer be the one to do it first?
Yeah, I think that you have to look at production value. I think that that's another aspect of the whole thing. What you're going to do with what you're seeing with what Flow FC wants to do with DC United, with all of the ancillary programming, things like that. When it comes to the Premier League here in the States, if I'm not mistaken, it's until 2021-22.
Correct.
And NBC / Comcast, it was 6 years, $1 billion.
Don't know the numbers, but it definitely expires in 21-22.
And I think that if MLS is looking at something like this, I think that it would make the most sense to have DAZN paired with MLS or Flow FC. And I think that right now, and Gwen agrees.
Yes. Gwen loves her streaming TV.
Yes. Well, I mean, considering that you and the Garlic Bread Warlord are streamers. You have gone that direction with
Not
Fanatis.
completely. Yeah, not completely, though. I haven't completely cut the cord. I'm getting closer to doing it. I'm not quite there yet to be able to get everything I want by doing it. I'm not all the way in yet, but I have dabbled in the streaming, yes.
So I have not. I am still doing...
Well, you do ESPN Plus, so you are dabbling in it.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, see?
I've considered ESPN Plus as a part of ESPN.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean... Okay, so I dabble. My toe is checking out the temperature of the water, and with all of the content that ESPN Plus has, I still marvel at the fact that it's $4.99 a month. I'm still waiting for the cost increase because of popularity, but right now ESPN Plus, because it is aggregating all of these properties, you're drawing so many sets of eyes. I think that you're okay at that particular rate. I know that there will come a day when it will increase, and then you'll have to do a la cartes and things like that. But I think that DAZN specifically had been doing a lot of boxing. They had been doing darts. And now with the hiring of Adnan Virk for DAZN USA, they're starting to do some programming, baseball coverage, like whip around coverage. So I think that you have to kind of gauge what your interest level is in the individual properties that are out there. And the streaming services, it's almost going to be like choosing a la carte streaming services, because if you want soccer, you go to Fanatis. And then if MLS
or you go to
DAZN,
Fubo, or you go to something else. Like, that's the thing, is right now nobody owns any sport on streaming. It's all segmented.
And so you're spending money on possibly Fubo and Fanatis. What's Fubo run? You know?
I don't remember. I did Fubo a while ago and then dropped it because I didn't need it. Fanatis was better and had stuff that Fubo didn't.
Yeah. And, DAZN in Canada, for that $150 for the annual subscription, you have to figure out if it's worth it for you. And this happened late
different here.
Last night.
Yeah, okay. And that's what's different here before we go to break. This is not Bleacher Report and Turner buying the Champions League rights and putting most of the games on BR Live, but some on traditional cable TV. This is the whole Megillah is streaming. All of it. You want to watch Premier League? You got to be a subscriber to DAZN. Period.
Yep.
Nobody's done that in the United States yet. Nobody's done that. I mean, really nobody's done that, period, with any league in any format, because you have local TV, you have different things popping up, you have shared rights, all that. But nobody's put an entire major property behind the paywall on streaming.
Yeah.
And this is a test case. I really think it is, and I think Major League Soccer will be looking at this in a big way. I think the Premier League will be looking at it for what that could mean if they could draw this type of money in Canada for it. Could, when those rights come up in the United States, could this be how DAZN really launches in the United States in a big way?
Yeah.
There's a lot of interesting things that are going to come of this, so keep an eye on this. If you have any questions about it, throw them our way on Twitter, @SoccerDownHere. We're going to take a break, come back, and wrap up hour number 1 right after this.
Today's show is presented by Apollinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service Ad Council and your state forester.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency, or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Every hiring manager knows that a company is only as good as the people it's made from. So where do you find the best people? That may surprise you.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
This is talent worth knowing about.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
Final segment, hour number 1, talking TV. Premier League is streaming only in Canada starting next season, and the Garlic Bread Warlord had a good nugget to keep in mind. Who heads up DAZN?
That'd be John Skipper.
John Skipper is relevant because he was the guy for soccer at ESPN. He was the one who convinced ESPN that the World Cup had to be a big deal. He was the one that got behind MLS early on. He is a big-time soccer supporter. So, no surprise that they're going to try to use soccer, which, honestly, I mean, with all the different properties worldwide, it's the most friendly sport for this type of situation. You know, you can grab some of these different properties, and you have so many options on properties to grab that it makes a lot of sense to build your brand. Now, what's their big splash in the United States going to be? What do they have in the United States currently? They have something with baseball now.
Yeah, it's a whip-around show with Adnan Virk, and there's the ESPN connection with John Skipper.
Okay, so they don't have baseball games, do they?
No.
Okay.
No, they just
what do
have
they
the whip
have in
around
terms
show.
of live sports properties?
Boxing, I think, is their primary element that they run. I'm trying to go through their schedule here, but for me, here in the States, it is mainly boxing, MMA, Super Series, and the Change Up show with Lauren Gardner and Adnan Virk. So
they have Bellator too. So they have some UFC. Mixed martial arts to be fair, and I think they have a Latin American mixed martial arts show
Americas
as well. Yes. So yeah, they don't really have much in the United States right now. They're not spending all this money worldwide though to not try to get into the U.S. market. So keep an eye on where they try to jump in. The baseball show is an interesting one. It's every night. It's a live look-in baseball show. So they did collaborate with Major League Baseball on that. That could be a toe in the water for something. And their U.S. rates are $19.99 a month or $100 for the entire year. I really would expect them to be a major player in the next TV rights deal. I'd be shocked if they're not.
Once again, going back to the history of John Skipper, that to me is that's when you sit there and you're ringing the bell at the top of the tower and sitting there and pointing and going, okay, see this is, remember this guy, his history. I think that soccer is going to end up being the next big thing for them. And to your point, I think that what they're doing with the Premier League is they're kicking the tires on, okay, how do we distribute it to an audience and then figure out how to do it to an American audience at the same time.
Yeah, they're going to go in on soccer, and right at that time, they're going to have the option to bid on Premier League. They're going to have the option to bid on Major League Soccer and U.S. soccer properties. I don't know what beyond that, you're talking, do they want to go in to try to make Liga MX a thing in English? Don't know what the value is there. Bundesliga, do they want to try to get that from Fox? Not sure how much the value is there. Some of the big games on Big Boy Fox for Bundesliga have drawn okay ratings, so it's going to be interesting. The soccer landscape on TV will be constantly ebbing and flowing as we get forward. We're going to take a break, come back, hour number 2, Wall Pass Wednesday, right after this.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA is a national nonprofit working to transform youth and high school sports so that every child has a positive character-building youth sports experience. PCA provides live and online workshops to train double-goal coaches whose first goal is winning and whose second, more important goal is teaching life lessons through sports. PCA also has workshops for parents and high school student athletes. For more information, please visit positivecoach.org.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinsky of Apolinsky & Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. This cat makes me make art. He's always motivating me to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. He's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Keyboard Cat, YouTube star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Start yours today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Soccer Down Here daily on SDH Networks, a division of OSG Sports. Find us at Soccer Down Here on Facebook and Twitter. The time is now the top of the hour. Peep, y'all.
Hour number 2, Soccer Down here, April 3rd edition. More chiming in on the Wall Pass Wednesday question about favorite 90s TV shows. We'll come back to that before we're done. I'm sure Mike Conti will want to chime in on it when he joins us at 10:40. But some news out of Montreal. Glenn Crooks, broadcaster for NYCFC on radio. Word out of Montreal is that Nacho Piatti will miss his second straight match with a knee injury when Montreal visits NYC on Saturday. Montreal win 41% of their matches with Piatti, 16% without Piatti. Ouch. Not good.
So you're saying don't take Montreal players in fantasy this week?
Saying don't take Nacho Piatti for sure. I think Safir Taider is still a possibility. But when you look at fantasy this week, and thanks for the update from our commissioner, Jason Wright. Make sure you're following Jason Wright, AGEN, or the Jason Wright Agency on Facebook if you have insurance needs. That's your man. He can take care of you. He's also the sponsor of our fantasy league, and you can still get into the fantasy league. The instructions are on both the Twitter and the Facebook pages. Make sure you get signed up for that. The top performers in Week 5, Home Sweet Soccer, wearing the badge of the Philadelphia Union, 128 points for the week. Joseph better than CR7 and the Commish, 119 points each, both top 10 in the Atlanta United official league. The Open League standings, anyone can join. This determines who gets promoted to the Pro Rel League. Number 1 in the standings right now, Joseph better than CR7. Number 2, soccer-specific fantasy team. Number 3, still my favorite, Joseph Martinez uses the Oxford comma. I'd like to believe that he does. The Pro Rel League standings there, the Sounders fan, Port City FC, or at least with the Sounders flair, undefeated, 5-0-0, 15 points. Joseph better than CR7, 4-0-1. Soccer-specific fantasy team, 4-0-1 as well. First tiebreaker is point differential, so Joseph better than CR7 is in second place with a pretty healthy point differential over soccer-specific fantasy team. The relegation zone, Jason Wright doesn't want to bring up names yet, but if you're in that relegation zone, you might get relegated to what league would they be doing? Would they be going
back to the Open League?
Yeah, I guess so. Or they might get dropped into a Liga Ascenso situation. So
there you
go. Situation. Key matches this week in the Pro Rel League. The Commish is up against Port City. We'll see if the Commish can put a loss on the Sounders Flair team. Camdo Attitude was last year's top spring season manager up against Joseph better than CR7. Dog for him is struggling this year.
Oh, that's Dave Benson.
Well, I think, according to the Commish, fans are starting to question Benson. Starting to question a little bit. Yeah, I don't know. The Commish might be questioning. Maybe the Commish is dropping these questions, trying to get the fans going. I don't know. That sounds like some Stephanie McMahon,
poking,
like GM type of tactics right there from the Commish. So we will see. But dog for him, you're getting called out.
I'm guessing that that 123 points had both Vela and Zlatan and captained one of the two.
It's very possible. When you look ahead this week, we talked about Piatti being injured, so adjust your teams accordingly. LA Galaxy go to Vancouver. We'll see if Zlatan plays on turf. He said he's not against it. We'll see how the Achilles is feeling after playing Sunday night. I don't really have a good read on Vancouver yet, so
yeah.
I mean, they just got a scoreless draw with Seattle, who's a pretty high-powered attack. I'd probably stay away from that
Santos
one.
Got early quote of the season in the press conference. I've got to. He was talking about. I think he was talking about winning the VAR crown.
Oh yeah. He's complaining about VAR. It's a good line, but he probably should try to win some matches first, and then we see what happens.
Slight issue.
Yeah, just the 0-0 last week against Seattle would make me stay away from this Vancouver Galaxy game on Friday night. Saturday, the aforementioned NYC-Montreal match. I don't know if Hebert's going to make his debut. He has gotten his visa. He's there. I think he's trained this week, so it's very possible. I still like Matricia from NYC. I think he's good in tight spaces on that Yankee Stadium field, and Montreal without Piatti is a different team. So I would look at some NYC attacking players.
Yep.
Go ahead.
No, I just said and I've started Matrice.
The big match on Saturday is on Big Boy Fox. DC United hosting LAFC. DC's been really good defensively this year. They've only conceded once. LAFC has been very explosive this year, scoring tons of goals. I mean, you got your usual suspects, Rooney, Vela, Acosta. I don't know if there's a surprise pick here. I don't think this is a game to look at defensive players. But I don't know who the surprise one would be other than the usual suspects. I do wonder about LAFC traveling across the country, if that'll take anything out of them. I'd lean on DC players in this one, but that's another one where they might cancel each other out a little bit.
Yeah. My front's Rooney and Matrice.
A matchup that I think you might be able to find some joy in is Toronto hosting Chicago.
Check.
Toronto's been good defensively. That might be a match to look at some Toronto defenders. Chicago, does Gaetan make his first start? Might be a spark. Might be an unpredicted element to that one. But I'd lean on Toronto pretty heavy there.
Pozuelo.
Yes. Red Bulls hosting Minnesota. It's kind of a toss-up at this point. Minnesota coming off of a disappointing result. Red Bulls coming off of a few disappointing results. Do you get a bounce back for the Red Bulls? Do you get a bounce back for Minnesota? That's another one that's really tough to call. I would probably avoid it because I just don't know even which direction to take your picks in. Columbus hosting New England is one that I like the Crew. I like the Crew's attacking players in it. I like Zardes. I like Higuain. See if Pedro Santos can continue his good form. He's been very inconsistent for the Crew. Coming off of a goal, we'll see if that helps him. I like Columbus in that one pretty well.
I've got Mensah on defense.
Good pick. Yeah, that could work. Orlando hosting Colorado. I do like Orlando in this one. I like Nani a lot. Yes.
Okay.
They're hosting Colorado. How are you surprised?
Orlando in general. It was not
Colorado.
about that.
Colorado.
All right.
They're hosting Colorado. Horrendous. And traveling. So, yeah, I like Orlando in that one. Nani's probably the one I would go with. Philadelphia hosting FC Dallas. That's a really interesting game.
Yeah, I think they cancel each other out.
To a degree, I think Dallas is the better team. And I think Paul McCall has a point to prove. He could be one to keep an eye on. Barrios, potentially. If you want to go on a wild card, I do like what Brendan Aronson's doing with Philadelphia, and he's cheap. So that would be a possibility if you're looking for a bargain. San Jose hosting Portland. Both teams have been horrendous. Does either one get better here? I don't know. I really don't know. I'd go Valeri if I'm going with anybody from Portland, but I just have no idea what to make of that game because both teams have been so bad. Seattle hosting Real Salt Lake. Seattle would be primed to bounce back after a scoreless draw. I believe there are questions about Raul Ruidiaz, though, injury-wise, so you want to keep an eye on that. I think he's been training to the side, so keep up with Seattle injury reports. But Will Bruin played well with Tacoma Defiance over the weekend. Jordan Morris has been good so far this season. Can he get it back after his national team duty and not really doing much in Vancouver? I think Seattle's the better team. Real Salt Lake just doesn't travel well consistently.
Lair Dom and Chad Marshall.
Okay. And then Sunday, it's Cincinnati hosting Sporting Kansas City. And Sporting Kansas City's coming off of a Thursday Champions League match. Cincinnati, you have questions. Fernando Adi is unavailable. He's part of the substance abuse and recovery program after getting, I think, the Ohio equivalent of a DUI.
Yeah.
On Sunday night. So no Adi. Is it Darren Maddox up top? Is it Ledesma up top? We'll see. Kenny Safe, kind of getting into form. He did not start, came off the bench against Philadelphia. Probably a likely starter there. Kendall Waston should be back in the starting lineup. He had a minor calf injury that kept him out against Philly. Kansas City, it's just a question of how much do they rotate after the Thursday game in Monterey.
And don't be surprised if you see Zendejas in that, I would think.
Yeah, Kansas City, I mean, you could see guys like Busio. You could see some of the young guys in there. So depending on how much you like them, there's some potential good price points with that for sure. We've had a lot of takes on Chicago and the situation with Chicago and what's going on. Bartimus Prime chimed in earlier, and Bart was a longtime Fire fan before Atlanta happened. So this is from Bart. The Fire is a solid brand that has lost a connection with the mainstream and hardcore fans. A new look and reinvigorated marketing campaign can bring people to Bridgeview. I was there for the stadium opener in 2006. It's a decent soccer stadium, but in an unideal location. It's still close enough to major Chicago suburbs to draw more than what they do. The management front office have done the damage with fans, plus underachieving teams for many years have made them not want to go. I agree. I mean, you would know better than me, Bart, but the stadium itself is great. Loved being there last year and watching the game from there. The broadcast position was great. It's a good venue once you're in the building. Completely cool. It was, 45 minutes from downtown, which, isn't a killer because, as Bart says, you do have suburbs nearby that you should be able to draw more. You have drawn more when the team's been good. Could a good team in Bridgeview draw more than what they're doing? Yeah, I think so. Would that make them completely relevant in the Chicago market? And that's the part I don't know. That's the part I really just do not know if even that would do it. Would a good team drawing the same numbers at Soldier Field or bigger numbers at Soldier Field, would that be a better way to be relevant? I tend to think it would. But then the question comes down to how much is it going to cost you to get out of Bridgeview? And numbers being thrown around are in the 100 to 150 million range because of the lease and because of the loans and everything that's there on it. So, John, do you think that the Fire could make it work at Bridgeview?
I think if the product improved on the pitch first.
Of course.
And for me, winning puts butts in seats. And I think if you put yourself out in the community, put yourself in that 45-minute radius to sit there and say, hey, we've got something going on here in Bridgeview, and then work your way up toward the metropolitan area. I think that it comes down to being interesting, taking your point from hour number one, being interesting, possibly winning, and putting yourself out in the community to attract eyes one way or the other. It gets to our Red Bulls argument of, okay, so if the Chicago TV stations aren't covering you and your product's on ESPN Plus, make yourself available, put stuff out there that shows that you're interesting. I'm not seeing a whole lot of impact in the media in Chicago when it comes to Fire content. So I think that in a top 3 or a top 4 media market, I think that you have to make that extra effort, and I'm not seeing the effort being made to show why you're interesting and why people should get in the seats. I think if you made those steps, I think you could.
Maybe. I don't think you're relevant at all in Chicago at this stage.
No, you're not.
And you're not on local TV. And we don't know what kind of numbers were talked about there. I would assume they were probably paying to be on, what were they, on one of the CSNs in Chicago previously?
There was that, and then it was U26, WCIU, okay. I think was a part of the deal.
Okay.
So they were bouncing around, and they were on
consistent.
No, nothing consistent or in a channel selection that you would naturally gravitate toward, because U26 has wrapped themselves around sports in the past. They've done minor league hockey and things like that, and there's, I think, Spanish language television has been a part of it too, but nothing where it would be on like WGN or something like that.
Right. So they went with ESPN Plus as their local broadcaster this year. So if you want to watch the Fire locally, you have to watch it on ESPN Plus. No local over-the-air TV. Don't know what their radio situation is. I don't know if they have radio. And if they do, I don't know if it's just a stream of the simulcast of the TV. So you're not getting much coverage in mainstream. And the Bastian Schweinsteiger move, that was one of the reasons you did it, was to get that. And you got a quick burst out of the Tribune and really not much else. Now, the team's been bad. You've had all the fan issues. You've had a lot of things go against you to get that coverage. But it's a really interesting one because for me, the league has grown in spite of the big markets right now, like Chicago, like the New Yorks. If you get those markets firing on all cylinders, it's a different conversation. And I wonder if a move back to Soldier Field can do that for the Fire, or if they could do it in Bridgeview and make it work. I think the ceiling is higher at Soldier Field. That's where I'm at with it. The ceiling is definitely higher at Soldier Field.
Yeah, and to answer your question, previous years it's been on CSN Chicago and on CSN Chicago Plus.
Yeah, okay.
And radio looks like it was Spanish only on 97.5 FM.
Okay. So, yeah, it's just not much out there on the Fire. Great coverage in The Athletic. Really not much in the Tribune, although they have put a little bit more emphasis on some soccer coverage. I think it's a little more general, like digital soccer coverage, not specifically Fire, although they do cover the Fire. Not in a huge way. So we'll keep an eye on Chicago. Look, everything's rumors at this point. There's nothing concrete, although the rumors are coming from a source that you could believe would have some information on it. So stay tuned. I'm fascinated by this one because when it popped up, I didn't dismiss it out of hand because of the comments that Don Garber's made in the last 6 months or so about Chicago and the need to do things in Chicago. This would definitely be a big move, and I just don't know if you have to rebrand it. I really don't, but it's an interesting time because you're going to start to see these types of conversations happen more and more where teams look at the success Atlanta United's had, look at the success that Cincinnati's having, that we expect Nashville to have. Miami, who knows? We'll see what happens with Miami. They should have success. LAFC and so on and so forth. And you're going to have some clubs look at what's going on and say, well, why can't we do that? What are we missing? What are we not doing? It's time to do things differently. And I think that's part of this process. So let's take a break here. Mike Conti joins us at 10:40. It's well past Wednesday, so send in your questions on Twitter at SoccerDownHere. We'll be right back.
Today's show is presented by Apollinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service Ad Council and your state forester.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Every hiring manager knows that a company is only as good as the people it's made from. So where do you find the best people? That may surprise you.
Meet the grads of life, young adults of unique determination and experience, an ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
This is talent worth knowing about.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here. Wall Pass Wednesday. Lots of things popping off around the league. Not rebranding, but the Red Bulls are looking at new training sites that could include a residency program. And remember, there's talk about MLS dropping the territorial rights when it comes to academies. Right now, it's very hard to recruit outside of your territory. You can't recruit in another team's territory. There are some open territories where you're seeing players move to different clubs. Kansas City's done really well in North Carolina, for example. But the Red Bulls are in a situation where their current facility, the lease is up in, I think, 2 to 3 years, according to The Athletic. They've outgrown it. The quote from a source to The Athletic was that the old facility wasn't designed for the current load. There's a USL team now, more academy use. The number of fields and locker room space, administrative space, just isn't there. Now, the talk about their plans for a new site, which I think would be 10 to 15 minutes away from Red Bull Arena, pretty close to where they're currently at, the cost is potentially, quote, significant and would be one of the most expensive training facilities in Major League Soccer. Those are really good things to hear, because there had also been some chatter that the Red Bulls might want out of this club and out of the situation. This makes me think that all that was just pure speculation. If you're going to build a training facility in one of the most expensive in the league, you're talking 40 to 80 million. It's pretty big roots to plant.
And you see how serious they are about being a part of the fabric there in New Jersey. And to make this kind of a step, I mean, you look at what they're trying to do with Red Bulls 2 in Montclair, and I mean, even if you just take all of the other elements away from it, it just looks like it's a cramped situation. I mean, just looking at it on its face without any kind of investigation, what Red Bulls 2 are in at Montclair just looks like they're shoehorned in. I think it's the personification of everything that Red Bulls are going through right now. So to make this kind of to have this idea out there, I think it speaks to commitment. I want to see what the plans look like. I want to see what their ideas are. And I want it to be a little more concrete. But I like the idea that this is a possible first step to really honestly expanding your ideas and planting roots, where we've seen what the academy can do and bringing players up to Red Bulls 2 and with Red Bulls themselves. So once again, I want to see what the next steps are, and I want to see how serious they are.
Look, you've got 4 fields right now, and you have a large academy and a USL team and a first team. That's not enough. You're bigger than what you have currently, so you're going to have to look to expand. So keep an eye on what the Red Bulls do to plant those seeds. It has not been officially announced yet, although the rumors are out there, and Grant Wall has it. Other folks had it before him. Atletico Madrid, your opponent for the All-Star game in Orlando this summer. How's that work for you?
Okay. It doesn't jump off the page for me. I mean,
what would jump off the page?
I mean, we've already had Juve, so you can't go back there asking that. For me, honestly, I want it to be East versus West. I want it self-contained.
That's not happening. So, but is that going to jump off the page?
For me, it would. I think currently it probably wouldn't. So, I mean, you're looking at probably someone high in La Liga, high in Premier League status, high in a league that you can get access to, high in Serie A, but we've already been there with Juventus, and we know that they ain't coming to the United States anytime soon with their current roster.
No, they're not.
So, for me, I mean, obviously you've got the greatest hits, Barca, Real, Inter,
You have not
Inter
had
Milan.
Barcelona yet for an All-Star game.
Okay. Well, but I mean, so for me, it would have to be something like that. It would have to be, you look at the greatest hits package, you name a team, sit there and say, okay, in a perfect world, what's it going to take to bring someone like a Barca here? And you cut the check.
Your two biggest clubs that you've not had here for an All-Star game are Barcelona and Liverpool.
Yeah, so
you've had your last few: Juventus, Real Madrid, Arsenal, Tottenham, Bayern, Roma in 2013 in Kansas City, Chelsea a couple times. Last time was 2012 in Chester, PA. Manchester United back-to-back years, and that's where it got big in 2010. Before that, you're talking Everton, West Ham, Celtic, Chelsea in 2006, Fulham in 2005. You had a one with Chivas in 2003. So 2010, you upped the level. I mean, and maybe Roma would be the one that's the outlier there, and some people would say Spurs. Does Atletico fit with your last three, Arsenal, Real Madrid, Juventus? No. I think it does, but it doesn't move the needle like Real. No. It doesn't move the needle like Bayern. It doesn't move the needle like Manchester United. I don't think it moves the needle like Arsenal, and I think that's more down to common language in that situation. It's a good one for soccer fans. And if soccer fans are complaining about Atletico Madrid coming and saying they're not big enough, then do your research. Like it's a big club. I mean, it's completely suitable for this match. If you're going to do the guest match, I do think you have those two out there left that you haven't hit yet in Barcelona and Liverpool. Beyond that, you haven't had Manchester City now, and I mean, you could put them in this category as well. Different level of fan base, but I think Manchester City would be in that conversation too. So those are your three: City, Liverpool, Barca. Beyond that, you've had everybody come through at least once that is at that massive level. Milan, you could do, although Milan's not where they used to be. Sorry, Nick. That's another big worldwide club that you haven't had in this game. All right, so there's four. I'm with you in terms of overall, I'd rather see it go east-west. I'd rather see it go more celebration of the league as a whole, more fun, less semi-competitive, have the skills competitions and have all that. We've talked about it many times. Have a Legends futsal match. Have all the fun with it. Have a celebrity five-a-side match. All that stuff and make it fun. As opposed to this situation where you're in kind of a no-win situation, where you're playing a team that is in their preseason, but they're a coherent team. You're pulling in all-stars, not necessarily the best 11 you would put together to play a competitive match. It's just awkward. You get weird situations like the one with Bayern Munich where Will Johnson nearly provoked an international incident between Pep Guardiola and Caleb Porter. So go east-west is where I want to go with it. If you're going to do this, Atletico is fine. It's not great. It's fine. You're in Orlando. You're not trying to sell out Soldier Field or Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Atletico Madrid, you should have a packed house in Orlando for the All-Star game. I think that one is suitable.
Yeah, and it's also a warm-up for the ICC with Atletico being a part of it, so Charlie Stolitano and Relevant get another bump out of that. But for me, I'd like for it to be a couple days of fun and it be east-west instead of having to cut a massive check for a team that might not want to play its entire best 11, and I'll just put those in air quotes.
Well, you're paying them to. That's the thing. Yeah. You're paying for certain players to play, and if they don't, then you're hopefully not paying as much. The Juventus thing, that was a huge conversation around it, was Cristiano Ronaldo. And where are you going to see him?
And so for me, eventually, over time, I'd like for it to go east-west, make it a celebration, do all of the skills competition, do the run-up shootout, all those things, just to celebrate the league, because I think you're to that point now where you can have it self-contained and be a celebration of yourself and what you've done and what you've grown to this point. I know you're probably a couple of years away from that thought, But for me, that's where I would like for it to drift eventually.
The other way it could drift, and it supposedly will at least for one time, is an MLS 11 versus a Liga MX 11. That's interesting. I want to see it, and I want to see how that comes off, because that could take the All-Star game, again, into a situation that, unless the NBA is going to do an All-Star game against like the EuroLeague All-Stars or something, there's really no other sport that could replicate that. So I'm intrigued by that one when it happens. It's part of the agreement for partnership between MLS and Liga MX. Maybe next year?
Have Herrera on the sidelines? Have Herrera on the touch?
Depends on if he's still employed at that point, because you never know
True.
day to day with him. That's the one I want to see. I'd like to see one of those big four that we haven't seen yet and go from there. But I do want to see it get to East-West in the very near future. Let's take a break here. Come back, more Wall Pass Wednesday right after this.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA is a national nonprofit working to transform youth and high school sports so that every child has a positive character-building youth sports experience. PCA provides live and online workshops to train double-goal coaches whose first goal is winning and whose second, more important goal is teaching life lessons through sports. PCA also has workshops for parents and high school student-athletes. For more information, please visit positivecoach.org.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinsky of Apolinsky & Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. This cat makes me make art. He's always motivating me to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. He's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Keyboard Cat, YouTube star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Start yours today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back. Wall Pass Wednesday. Mike Conti joins us at 10:40. Get his take on favorite 90s TV shows. But Michael Head
he's already been going.
Yeah, no, he has. That's good. We'll get him in a second. But Michael Head has a valid Wall Pass Wednesday question. Sorry, fellas, but I see no need for the All-Star game. Why do we need it? Why do we need an All-Star game, John?
I mean, it's a legitimate question. I've always thought of it as the celebration of the league and its stars and its place. And I know that there are folks who are concerned about injuries. Greg Garza, example one, recent thoughts there. But I've just always thought of it as that ceremonial celebration of everything that you've accomplished. And I think right now for MLS, for a league that is growing to the points that it is, I think that it gives the newer cities that are involved, that will be involved, that opportunity to celebrate what they've done. I mean, it gives FC Cincinnati a chance to sit there and celebrate everything that they've built. It'll give Nashville that same thing. It gives Atlanta United. I mean, if you saw what it was like against Juventus when Atlanta was host of the MLS All-Star Game. So I think for me, it's a chance to celebrate your growth and show the stars that you've been able to attract in what MLS is right now.
Yeah, I think there's an element to, I mean, I don't really care that much about this side of it because I'm going to be invested in what's going on anyway. But when you're talking to, an average sports editor, a sports talk host, All-Star games are completely understandable. And when players are named to an All-Star game, they understand the meaning of it. It is something that does grab that mainstream attention. And I think the All-Star game has done a good job of that for Major League Soccer. Now, have they capitalized on it enough? That's a different question, and I think it is up for debate. I think the All-Star game, when it is big, as it was last year, as it was against Real Madrid, as it's been other times since they've had big opponents come over, when it's big and presented in a big way, there's value. I don't know how much value is in this one. In Orlando with 25,000 people, they'll sell it out against Atletico Madrid. How much value is there in it? Now, the other thing that factors into, Michael, and I remember this conversation going around, when you had MLS Cup in neutral sites, and it was your Super Bowl, and you could plan for it as such, you had sponsorship activations. It was easy to get more money into the game because of that. It was your place for league meetings. It was all that. Now it's a little harder to fully maximize MLS Cup because you don't know where it's going to be until a week or 2 weeks before. The All-Star game is your opportunity to do a lot of that and really give back to your sponsors and get them engaged and have all those meetings and do a lot of work around the game. It's a valuable time. I think the NBA does a really good job of maximizing what an All-Star game can be. Major League Baseball, to a degree. I mean, yeah, I'd say they do. I mean, with the home run derby, that always gets people excited, and they have everything going on around it. I don't think MLS does enough of that for the public. I'd like to see more. But if you're going to do it, it has to be big. I don't think this is big enough. I don't think it's worth the trouble in this type of game. That's where I'm at. I think there is a certain level you have to hit. Otherwise, if you're going to do it as East versus West and truly celebrate the league, or don't do it at all. If it went away, I would not be upset by it.
No, I'd get it. I'd understand it.
I mean, there has to be value. And right now, I think, Michael, the reason why the league needs it is that there's value in doing it. I wonder how much value there is with a game like this year against an Atletico Madrid in Orlando in a smaller stadium versus Juve at Mercedes-Benz or Real Madrid in Chicago at Soldier Field. Is there enough value in a matchup like this one? And that's the part I don't know. We'll have to see, and we'll be keeping an eye on that as we get closer to it. Let's take our final break here so we have plenty of time with our buddy Mike Conti. All your questions for him, Wall Pass Wednesday, get them in now. We'll be right back after this.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yep, he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service Ad Council and your state forester.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Every hiring manager knows that a company is only as good as the people it's made from. So where do you find the best people? That may surprise you.
Meet the grads of life, Young adults of unique determination and experience, an ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
This is talent worth knowing about.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
Welcome back. Final segment. Soccer Down here. April 3rd. It's a Wednesday. It's a Wall Pass Wednesday. So we have questions that have been given to us, and we have someone to come help us answer them now. Mike Conti from 92.9 The Game.
Hey, guys. Sorry I'm late today. I had a meeting. So
No, it's all good.
No worries.
It's all good.
Okay,
we have two questions for you to start. First, I'm going to give you the easy one. John will give you the hard one. First one, we're talking All-Star game, and the rumors out there about Atletico Madrid being the All-Star opponent in Orlando. Is that big enough? And then the second question, Michael Head started it. Do we need an All-Star game?
Oh, boy. I'm really stuck in the second part. First part, yeah, Atletico Madrid is big enough. That's a big club from Europe, a Champions League team. I have no problem with that. I'm more excited to see Atletico Madrid in an All-Star game than, say, Monterrey or, Cruz Azul or Chivas or something like that. I know there's a plan one day to have Liga MX involved. I'm more intrigued by an opponent from La Liga than an opponent from Liga MX because I just think you see enough through CONCACAF Champions League of the head-to-head between MLS and Liga MX. So, yeah, Atletico Madrid's fine with me. Do we need to have an All-Star game? It was such a great event in Atlanta last year that being a part of it firsthand, I think, has altered my perspective on it a little bit. Because I used to be in the mindset in all the major stick and ball sports that, the All-Star game is a nice way to give players a midseason break, but the game itself is kind of boring and meaningless unless it's in your city. Experiencing everything in Atlanta last year has altered my perspective on that a little bit because I think it's something that the fans certainly enjoyed, the television audience certainly enjoyed, and if this is something that your TV partners want you to continue, then you have to do it because TV revenue is, quite frankly, what's going to keep this league going. So I guess Fox has it this year. If it's really important to FS1 to get that midweek programming of Atletico Madrid against MLS, and it makes it worth it to Fox to spend the millions of dollars that they spend on the MLS TV package, then it's very, very important. I would encourage, if we have listeners who didn't attend the All-Star game in Atlanta this past year, I would really encourage you to consider going to Orlando and being a part of it this year because it's not just the game itself. It's the homegrown game. It's all the activities in the 2 or 3 day lead up to the game. That's really a lot of fun and quite enjoyable. And it helps to grow soccer in the city in which it's played. So, yes, press on with MLS All-Star Game. And vamos Atletico Madrid. I think that's a good opponent.
I know that we'll probably circle back to it with folks who've been commenting on that, but the really hard question for you is more of a statement. So folks have been chasing after Seinfeld this morning for 90s television, including Jared_Smith, sir.
Yeah, he's lost his mind. Jared. I've known Jared 10 years, and this is the first time I can truly question if Jared has gone insane. Because, look, whether or not you like Seinfeld is one thing, but how can you call a show overrated if it has tens of millions of loyal fans, even today with the show in syndication? I'll give you a really controversial take, and it's probably going to make a lot of people who listen to this program unhappy. Saved by the Bell was a garbage show, in my opinion. But I can't argue. No, anytime the actor turns to the camera to address the audience, it's a garbage show.
Okay, so then when Burt Reynolds turns to the camera in Smokey and the Bandit.
Well, that's different. That's a movie, John. That's different. Let's not go down that wormhole. Okay, we're talking about a television show with sappy, pre-adolescent themes where the camera turns to the character and the character directly addresses the audience on the danger of taking pep pills. That's a garbage show.
Oh.
But there are tens of millions of people in our generation that grew up in the 80s going into the 90s that love Saved by the Bell. I can't, as such, call it an overrated show because clearly they've done something right. Same with Friends. I was not a big fan of Friends. I can't call it an overrated show because Friends had a very, very devout following, especially in the 90s when it was in first-run television. And even today in syndication, people love it. So just because you don't like the show doesn't mean it's overrated. And that's where I'm stuck with Jarrett right now. Like Seinfeld. Now, I love Seinfeld, so I might be a little biased from that perspective, but you can't argue with the facts. It was a revenue-generating machine for NBC's must-see TV Thursday lineup. It still has a lot of success in syndication today. It cannot be overrated.
The backwards episode was brilliant.
Yes. Yeah, and that's the other thing, too. I mean, a lot of what Seinfeld did kind of changed the way that sitcoms were written and produced from that point going forward. It really created a whole new, I don't want to call it genre, but it changed the way that a lot of sitcoms were produced, which, again, how can it be overrated if it was transformative? So, look, I love Jarrett, and he and I will remain friends after all of this. I'm just shocked at what a bizarre take that is.
90s
Beverly Hills
TV tearing
90210.
people to shreds.
Yeah, and Beverly Hills 90210. I mean, again, John, a show I did not like. I wouldn't call it a garbage show, but it was a show I disliked.
Okay,
but
all right.
It spawned Melrose Place, and Melrose Place became very popular. And then we had this whole genre of late 90s Fox dramedies that came as a result of it. So
The Heights, One Tree Hill.
Right. So even though I didn't like it, doesn't mean it's overrated.
Okay. All right. I was a little worried there where the 90210 conversation was going to go. I might have gotten a little upset.
Well, let me put it to you another way. Okay. Tom Brady. I don't like Tom Brady. I don't like the fact that he eats kale and he throws 40 touchdowns a year and he's married to a supermodel and he's financially secure for life and what he did to the Falcons and all that. I don't like Tom Brady. That doesn't mean he's not one of the best of all time. So just because you didn't like a certain show or couldn't relate to it does not mean it's overrated.
Okay, let's bring it back to soccer because people's heads might explode if we keep going.
That Trains guy is probably going crazy right now.
Already has, yes.
Yeah.
Question for you. CONCACAF Champions League returns this week. Sporting Kansas City goes to see our friends in Monterrey, Mexico. What do you rate Sporting Kansas City's chances are against Monterrey?
Monterrey is not playing as well as they were when we saw them. And perhaps it was a product of their match compression starting to catch up to them a little bit, and the travel. Where's the first leg? Is it at Monterrey or at Kansas City?
In Monterrey.
All right,
yeah, it's in Monterrey.
All right, so that's a break for Rayados because, if you're playing the first leg in Kansas City in early April, like they had a snowstorm on Royals opening day last week, so you could have had conditions coming into play. Probably not going to be a factor playing down there. I think it's an intriguing series. I think SKC has played clearly much, much better than Atlanta United has played in the first month of the league season. They have been, I think, a wee bit fortunate with their CONCACAF Champions League draw. I don't draw too many conclusions off the fact that they advanced past Independiente of Panama. I call it maybe a 50-50 series. I think SKC has a puncher's chance. I think the question is, and without knowing too much about Rayados and where they are injury and fitness-wise right now, if they play full first choice, if Maxi Mays is playing, if Pabon is playing, if Lyon is playing, all the guys, they had 5 guys playing for El Tri during the recent international break. If all of those guys are playing and are fully fit, then that's going to be a really tough ask for SKC to go down to Monterrey and get a result. So they might be hoping just damage control. Let's try to get out of here with a 1-0 loss, give ourselves a chance to come back on the return leg and maybe steal a result in advance.
Yeah, but at the same time, though, they're coming off a match where they basically took Montreal out back, as they say in the South. And you've got that momentum going forward where you even had young guys being involved, like a Gianluca Busio getting onto the score sheet. So I think that they're coming in there sky high when it comes to at least momentum and thought pattern for this particular match, wouldn't you think?
Oh, really good point. And the fact that, what did they end up with? 7 against Montreal?
Yeah, it was 7.
Once you get to 3 or 4, you can kind of mentally check out of that match a little bit. So although SKC did play on Saturday, they didn't have to expend everything in their tank on Saturday. So that's a plus as well. And look, Mike Petke will find a way. He's a savvy manager. I thought he did a pretty good job rotating his club during the last round of CONCACAF Champions League. The quarterfinal
Vermes.
round.
Sorry, I was confused.
Mike Petke.
Yeah, Peter Vermes.
I would like to see Mike Petke in CONCACAF Champions League. That'd be fun.
My goodness. Peter Vermes. Wrong American manager. Excuse me. Peter Vermes did a very, very good job of rotating his club during the quarterfinal round. It looked a little bit sketchy at times, but they did enough to get through and keep themselves above water in league play. So let's see. I mean, you've got a savvy manager. You've got a team that's rolling right now. I mean, absolutely rolling in terms of being able to score. So let's see. I think obviously Monterrey is going to be by far the best opponent they've played so far this year.
Now that we've had some time to dry out and warm up and hopefully not get sick, what are your reflections on Columbus?
By the way, real curious, have you gotten sick? Are you good? Like, I'm fine. I've had no effects from anything.
He's 50-50.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just general allergy stuff or what, but yeah, just a little under the weather. Not bad.
When I got home on Sunday, my feet and legs were still cold when I got home on Sunday. It was one of those where, like, we went back to the hotel after the match. I jumped in the shower just to try to warm up. Sounds like the Atlanta United players did the same thing. That didn't work, and then, you're on the plane, you get home, you get into bed, you hope that warms you up. It didn't. I don't really think I thawed out until maybe yesterday, but for whatever reason, probably because I'm consuming more than my daily allotted value of vitamins and minerals because I eat so darn much, I have not been sick, so fortunately. My takeaway, Jason and John, it was a throwaway match for the final 60 minutes. So we're going to look back. I don't know where the season's going to go for Atlanta United and how it's going to end. But in October, we're going to look back on March 30th and say, oh, that was the farce of a match they played in Columbus in basically a swimming pool. Now, you can take some things away from the first 30 minutes when the pitch was playing true. And Atlanta United had a major, major error on the goal by Santos in the second minute. Major error. And a mistake that they could not afford to make because you knew conditions would go downhill. Jason said this the other day on 92.9, and he was right. Atlanta United didn't lose because of the conditions, but the conditions made it impossible for them to come back. So looking at the segment of the match where the pitch played relatively true, you had that huge mistake in the second minute, then you absolutely were outplaying Columbus for the remaining 28, 29 minutes before the delay. Absolutely. Anyone objectively watching that match would say the same thing. Zach Steffen made some big saves. Where have we seen that before? He's best goalkeeper in MLS. Single-handedly knocked Atlanta United out of the postseason 2 years ago. It happens. So nothing has changed my opinion about Atlanta United, what they have done so far, the direction in which they are going, based on anything that happened Saturday night. It was a 30-minute segment of real soccer where they outplayed Columbus for 29 and a half minutes, and they had a horrible mistake. Atlanta United, unfortunately, because they aren't scoring goals, they aren't good enough right now to overcome mistakes like that. That's a problem. They need to deal with it. But I am not jumping to any conclusions whatsoever based on what we saw Saturday in Columbus.
So then, Mike, let me separate the 30 minutes from the other 60 minutes, and let me get into the other 60 minutes here and kind of look at it from 30,000 feet.
Mm-hmm.
We were making the point on the show on Monday that you have to separate what happened in the first 30 from the second 60. But in that second 60, I think for me, especially what happened in the 65th, where you have the discussions possibly about, abandoning the match a second time and having everybody go off and suspending it from that point, and then no stoppage time at all from the 90th, and you just blow a whistle and everybody is sprinting off the pitch. I think that there are issues that the league needs to look at in that final 60 when you have basically, Lake Erie making a guest appearance at an MLS match.
Well, and frankly, I think it's embarrassing that you can have USL get a weather situation correct and MLS completely botches it. Where you had Birmingham and Louisville come back the next day and play because they knew the pitch was going to be unplayable, and you knew what the weather forecast was. How does USL get that right and MLS gets it wrong? I really, really sincerely hope, John, really hope that it wasn't a matter of, it's going to cost tens of thousands of dollars to change flights because Atlanta United flew commercial. And it's going to cost Columbus thousands of dollars to bring stadium staff and security and everyone back the next day. Let's just put our heads down and get through this and call it a night. I really hope it wasn't that. I don't know what other reason would have been used to justify continuing the match. And honestly, I think this brings up a broader question. It's not necessarily about the MLS weather policy, but when you make your clubs travel commercial, these are the things that come into play. I mean, honestly, I think we could probably do the math. I mean, if there were 40 people in Atlanta United's traveling party, and you're changing all their flights now from Sunday morning to Sunday night or whatever, first of all, you're hoping there are 40 seats available on a Delta flight going home. Jason learned the hard way that that's not necessarily true to Columbus. Okay, so now do you want to get into a situation
Planes,
like
trains,
that?
and automobiles.
Well, I mean, look, we had a situation last year with the WNBA team from Las Vegas that had a flight canceled. They're put on 3 separate flights to go to Washington. The last group gets in like an hour before the game, and they end up boycotting a game. MLS, I don't think it's the weather policy that's the problem. I think the problem is your travel policy, where you're making teams fly commercial. You have owners that I think would be willing to hire charters more frequently. I would think Arthur Blank might be one of them. If you're chartering, then it's less of a big deal. You tell the pilot, hold on 8 hours. We're coming to you as soon as this match is over. Let's get it done. The other thing that was very, very annoying to me is, and this is separate from the travel issue, Jason, when we left that stadium at, 11:30 Saturday night, it stopped raining. The skies were clearing. Mm-hmm. It was cold, and it was very, very damp. It wasn't pleasant. But if they had stopped the match in the 65th and waited another hour, the rain would have stopped. Then you squeegee the pitch. You play the final 25 minutes, and then you get out of there, and everyone goes home the next day, and you don't have to change flights. So I think maybe a little bit of patience would have been beneficial, because if I can pull up the radar on my phone, I would imagine the stadium ops crew in Columbus can probably pull up the radar in their computers. And they would have been able to see that and potentially communicate it to Joe Dickerson, the referee. And then we could have at least had 25 minutes of a relatively playable pitch plus stoppage time. Maybe Atlanta United gets a goal, and then we're feeling totally differently about everything. But it didn't happen because everyone wanted to go home.
That's the stuff that's frustrating because, okay, let's say Atlanta United doesn't host a playoff game because of 2 points. Could you have come back to get a draw there? We'll never know.
Right.
Could things have changed? We'll never know.
Even if it comes to goal difference, and you miss goal difference by 1, and that's what bothers me so much about not playing stoppage time.
Yes.
If you're going to play out the match, then don't disrespect the match by saying, you know what, that's it. That there was no stoppage time whatsoever in the second half. When you awarded a penalty and you had 4 subs, 2 for each club, Don't then make the argument, oh, nope, it timed true to 90 minutes and we aren't going to play stoppage time. That, I think, bothered me more than anything else on Saturday night, because that's totally disrespectful to the game. If you're making the decision that the pitch is playable enough to play on, then you've got to play the full thing.
Completely agree.
Right there with you, bro.
Frustrating element of it that, I know that fans don't want to talk about it because they're frustrated with the way the team is played. I understand it, but it is a competitive issue that is just incredibly wrong in the way it was handled, and hopefully it doesn't come back to affect Atlanta United's positioning in the standings as we get later in the year. That's it for a show for a Wall Pass Wednesday. I think we hit every important 90s TV show. I did see Michael Valverde threw Ally McBeal in as an underrated one, especially early on. I'll agree with him on that one. That was a good show at the beginning.
First couple of years.
Yeah, I think we hit every other one. All the Nickelodeon shows were mentioned. I think we hit them all.
Yeah, but
was Ren and Stimpy? Did Ren and Stimpy ever make it in the conversation?
Ooh, I don't know if it did.
No.
See, that's a very underrated cartoon / 90s
show. Very underrated.
Very
underrated.
Okay.
Good call.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think we'll end it there. That's very good. All right, tomorrow we'll be back 9 in the morning. Thursday Thoughts edition of the show. We'll get you ready for the upcoming weekend. We'll also talk about Tormenta, who plays tonight in USL League One. ESPN Plus 7:30 kick as they host FC Tucson. We'll talk about that. Get you ready for the upcoming weekend tomorrow. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Thanks for chiming in on a Wall Pass Wednesday. Mucha plata, y'all.
Hit it, Mike.
Mucha plata, idiots.
Oh, there you go. Mucha 90s, y'all.